0.92%, whereas South Korea's KOSPI gained about 1.3%. Among other cues, and perhaps the most worrisome for us, because since we are net importers of oil, is the sharp spike that we have seen in crude oil prices. Brent crude in the last two sessions has rallied by over 4% and is currently trading at a 2-month high above the $83 a barrel mark. Now, the fresh spike has come on the back of fuel supply concerns after a missile struck the Trafigura operated fuel tanker in the Red Sea, and as Russian refined product exports are set to fall as several refineries are under repairs after drone attacks. Back home, Indian markets have opened in the green with a first tick for Nifty coming in above the 21,400 mark. And we are building on to the morning gains. Nifty, as we speak, has reclaimed the 21,500 mark. In fact, we are very close to the day's high. The day's high sits at around 21,562. We are just about 20 points shy of it, as you can see on your screen. As of 9:30 a.m. this morning, Nifty 50 was up 0.89% at 21,542 mark. Sensex has also reclaimed the 71,000 levels after 3 or 4 sessions, and it was up 0.81% at 71,350 mark. The broader markets, they are also showing good bit of strength, although they are underperforming the headliners this morning. Mid cap index is up about 0.3% above the 47,300 mark. The small cap index is up 0.66% above the 15,500 levels. Volatility has also seen a sharp spike. India VIX as of 9:30 a.m. was up almost 10% and it is back above the 15 mark. Now, this is of course because we have a data heavy week. We have lots to react to. Binary events as well in terms of monetary policy decision in the US, plus the interim budget as well as the earnings season, as a lot of the heavyweights, as I mentioned earlier, will report their earnings this week. So perhaps some of that spike in volatility is justified. Now with that, let's also bring on Avni Bhatt, Senior Vice President at JM Financial. Good morning, Avni. Thank you for joining us here on First Take. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Now, Nifty has declined in the last 3 out of 4 weeks, and it's down about somewhere 600 points or so from the recent peak of 22,124. But on Thursday, we saw a sharp recovery in the last half an hour of trade, and even today, bulls are pushing the markets higher. Do you expect this pullback to continue this week? And if so, what could be the potential reversal points for the index?
Good morning, Suyash, and a very good morning to all the viewers as well. So as you rightly pointed out, this week is a data heavy week, and volatility is going to take the center stage. Now, as far as index levels are concerned, it's a dead cat bounce in my view, and Nifty, as long as 21,750 level is not reclaimed on closing basis, till then it would remain a sell on rise market. And this particular pullback rally can continue up to around 21,700. The first resistance point being 21,550. We are currently hovering around those levels. In case of today, it closes about 21,550. We would head up to around 21,700. But there is a very high probability that from around those levels, we may see another round of sell-off coming in. Volatility is going to pick up, and there are factors like the crude oil, the surge in crude oil prices that could affect negatively and going ahead. But the overall on the downside support is at 21,200 immediate trading support level, and the next support level is 21,000. So I think more or less until the budget announcements are done and something concrete comes out of the announcements, till then, we should be trading within a broader range of 21,200 to 21,700 on Nifty. And similarly, Bank Nifty is a slightly weaker index compared to Nifty. And in Bank Nifty, even the rollovers were seen at 77%, which was a tad lower than its 3-month average. And if you notice, it was mostly long unwinding. The entire January month was mostly long unwinding and some bit of short addition. These shorts, I believe, have been rolled over to the Feb series, but they are to a smaller extent. So as long as 44,000 support holds, I think there will be an attempt on the upside to test around 46,000 levels. Immediate trading resistance level is at 44,400, sorry, 45,600 on the upside, and 44,400 is the support level. So this is the range we can look at. Again, Bank Nifty, the viewers, it's a sell on rise market. Fresh longs only and only once it closes above 47,000, which is pretty far away. So our view for the month is slightly on the bearish side. Not much of a downside, but yes, from the higher levels, we could see rounds of sell-off coming.
All right, and Nifty Bank is actually about 240 points shy of the resistance levels that you have put out there, and it's up almost 1%, in fact over 1% this morning, and it's being driven by that HDFC Bank stock. It's that too is up over somewhere around 1 to 1.3% this morning, and this is on the back of RBI allowing LIC to acquire an additional 4.8% stake in the lender, taking it stake to about 9.99%. Now, for the benefit of our viewers, it must be noted that it's just a provisional note, and it does not necessarily mean that LIC will go out there and raise its stake in HDFC Bank. But Avni, coming back to you, a good sentimental booster as far as HDFC Bank is concerned, and it needed that, isn't it?
True, Suyesh, it's a sentiment booster, but if you see the stock reaction today, I mean, the kind of sentiment booster it is, we are not seeing that converting into price movement on HDFC Bank. It should have rallied quite a bit, but last week HDFC Bank had given a breakdown below the support level of the crucial support level of 1470. So I believe a pullback may continue up to around 1470. Probably, in fact, not even 1470, around 1465 to 67 levels to be precise. And we may see again a sell-off from those levels. In case this news does not play out, Evan, it's a provisional news. It's not compulsory that LIC may buy a stake in HDFC Bank. So my view is on the downside, 1380 to 1400, the lows that it had made last week, that's a very, very crucial level. In case if that level breaks, then we are heading towards around 1270 levels. But as of now, the probability is less. It should trade between 1400 to 1470. And but fresh longs should be taken only if it closes above 1470, which was a breakdown level of last week. So as of now, no trade. In case if it comes close to around 1465, 67, I would prefer taking a short bet with a stop loss of 1470.
All right, that's a view on HDFC Bank. Still not looking too positive. Above 1470, you can add fresh positions near that level. Perhaps take a short position. But moving on, Tata Technology, now that has reported its December quarter numbers. The numbers came out after the market hours on Thursday, and it was a first earning report from the company after getting listed. As you can see, the numbers are there on your screen, and net profit was up somewhere around 6% on a quarter-on-quarter basis, whereas revenue surged by about 1.5%. EBIT, earnings before interest and tax, was up 11%, and margin increased by about 141 basis point. But Avni, coming back to you, the stock after getting listed, after that bumper listing that we saw, has been trending lower. It's down about 12.5%, in fact over 12.5%, and very close to that lowest levels it has seen on the price. So what's your view on Tata Tech?
So Suresh, technically speaking, we do not have enough data to look at the stock. Technically, it won't do much justice. But if I can give you a short-term view, since we have enough data for the short-term view. So for 1138 is a very crucial support level. In case if that breaks, then it can head down to around 1125. And on the upside, 1165 to 1167 is the resistance area. So for the short term, it may probably trade in within this range. The bias is definitely negative at the current juncture, but not much of a data point to call it a 4 to 5% move on either side.
Right, not enough information on the price charts to take a call on Tata Tech. But before we let you go, Avni, what are some of the stock recommendations in a market like this, which have been rather choppy?
So Suyash, we have last week we had a certain calls, out of which two of the calls are have not met their targets. We continue with the buy call on those same stocks. One is NTPC. Again, if at all we see a dip up to 305, 306 levels, you can take a long trade in that. 322 is the target, and on the stop loss can be kept at 296. The other stock is Coal India. We are very positive on the stock. Around 385 should be the entry level. 400 to 415 would be the target for this month. And I think in a very short term, Coal India should cross around 400 levels and head towards 415. The stop loss can be kept at 379. The third stock that I have on my list is Reliance. It has already moved up a bit, but you can buy on dips till around 2700. And 2640 will be the stop loss for the stock. And 2790 is the immediate short term target on the long side. Then we have Bank of Baroda. Bank of Baroda, PSU banks have been doing good compared to the private banking sector. So long trade can be placed in Bank of Baroda around 225 to 226 levels. Target would be 242 on the upside and stop loss 219. And fifth stock is from the metal sector, which is Hindalco. Hindalco, again, the view is extremely positive. It has given last week it had a subdued movement, but it gave a good pullback by the end of the week. So around 558 to 560 is a good level to enter into the stock for a target of 596 to 600 and keeping a stop loss of 541.
All right, that's Avni Bhatt for you, ma'am. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Great insights from you as always. Thank you for joining us here on News9.
Thank you.
But with that, let's take a short break. On the other side, we have Mr. Gaurang Shah who joins us. Also, we'll discuss the expectations from ITC this quarter.
A defiant performance by Ten Hag's men. Now standing at 7 feet 4 inches, Satnam Singh is making his way into professional wrestling.
We are getting more good news for India.
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा.
There is certainly a wall of capital coming into the clean tech, climate tech space, not just in India but across the world.
This and more, streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
20,000 people dead and counting. What's happening in the United States of America is unprecedented. You will have to pay for this.
Bangalore traffic is an example of something that has gone wrong with our system.
We have more than 50 flyovers in Bangalore city. If flyover is a solution to traffic problem, Bangalore should not have traffic problem.
According to TomTom Traffic Index 2022, Bangalore is ranked as the second worst city in the world when it comes to traffic.
The speed limit at the ORR is 80 kilometers per hour, but our vehicle has only moved 10 kilometers per hour.
What Bangalore needs is a surgery, but what we have been offered repeatedly are band-aids.
Only on the world's first news OTT. News9 Plus, ahead of the curve.
Why is the state not looking at putting an embargo on that?
As a Telangana person, I will not accept.
How do ordinary folks deal with this?
how do you fulfill that promise? Because ultimately expectations have to be met. If you look at the political landscape, is it really changing for women? And what is the inability of the forces that dead bodies surface but not the living people?
Welcome back. You're watching First Stick here on News9 and markets. Now they are showing significant strength this morning as we speak. Nifty has in fact is very close to the day's high. It has gained over 1% or so, and Nifty is currently above the 21,500 mark. Just about 20 points shy of the day's high. Sensex has also gained close to 650 points. That is sitting above the 71,400 mark. Up about 1% or so. The mid cap and the small cap indices are also participating in this rally. Mid cap index is up 0.5%, whereas the small cap index, now that is moving towards its day's high. It's up 0.93% at 15,552 levels. India VIX continues to increase, and it is up about 10%, over 10% at 15.29 levels as of 10 a.m. this morning. But with that, let's also bring on board Mr. Gaurang Shah, Senior Vice President at Geojit Financial Services. Thank you for joining us here, Gaurang. Always a pleasure speaking to you. And we have lots to track this week. We have the interim budget on Thursday. FOMC meet in the US is also scheduled for Wednesday. Major earnings from ITC, Adani Ports, Bajaj Finance, to name a few. What will you be focusing on this week, sir?
So I think the core focus, definitely, first of all, morning to you and all the viewers, Suyash. I think it's going to be budget, because that's going to be an event. Not to forget, Honorable Finance Minister has also mentioned that it's going to be a budget on account due to the implementation of Code of Conduct. But expectation in terms of employment generation, policy changes, budgetary allocation towards defense, Indian Railways, power generation, power transmission distribution, power equipments, and of course towards agri sector is what is largely to be rolled out. And over and above that, on the positive side, will only soothe these sentiments. And of course, the FOMC meet would keep the markets a little bit choppy on fallback of the announcements that the chair will make. And tracking the Q3 earnings is going to be also on the focus. So it's going to be a little bit challenging week, but below, as we spoke last time also, Suyash, Nifty sub 21,300, and I had also mentioned last time when we discussed that we may break 21,300 intraday. But giving a close below that looks a little bit difficult, and that's what exactly has happened. And we are trading at 21,500, if I'm not mistaken, currently.
Right.
So there is positive tailwind, but because of the events domestically and globally, I think it's going to be a little bit choppy.
All right, and a lot of the global cues now that have turned unfavorable. The US 10-year yields have picked up by about 35 to 40 basis points in the last month or so. What does that indicate? Does it, give us some clue that the rate cuts which we were anticipating, at least in the US, to come from March of this year, will be pushed back to the second half of 2024?
So the date was not given by the Fed, right? That was the anticipation that all of us had. And central banks and the chiefs don't act as per the expectation of the market participants. They do according to their wisdom and understanding. And I think US doing it in March or later is something that US and the authorities have to look at. We have to look at our central bank and what do they have to say. And of course, in the credit policy that we've seen, the latest, the statements made by the Honorable Governor were absolutely clear. And he also mentioned that as far as India is concerned, we are in a much better position. And that's what he's been reflecting upon over the last couple of credit policies. So we are in a better shape compared to the rest of the world. And I think we should remain that way and even better off. So, like I said, Suyash, can't really have any kind of, forward-looking thoughts or opinion about what foreign central banks will do or the chiefs will do. but we have to look at our domestic data points with more confidence and convincing ability.
And sir, talking about RBI, what's the expectation as far as we are concerned? When will the rate cut cycle begin for us?
So I don't know whether we discussed this last time, but our view was at Yojit that possibly if all goes well, especially the inflation front and the crude oil front, if there is no major scare, then we can expect possibly first 3 calendar years, that is Jan, Feb, March. But everything is data driven, Suyash. So let's hope that we do well as far as these two crucial indicators are concerned, that is inflation as well as crude oil prices, because we have a high dependency on import of crude oil.
Mr. Shah, crude oil prices now, they are near a 2-month high. We were trading in a range of about $75 to $80 a barrel. I'm talking about Brent crude here. But over the weekend, over the last 3 days, you have seen about a 4% spike. In fact, we are very close to 83, in fact, above $83 a barrel. Is that concerning? Can we reach or, can crude prices get back to that $90 plus barrel that we had seen, in November and October of 2023?
Well, to put it absolutely lightly, I think the situation in the Red Sea, if it has to deteriorate further thanks to the jokers called Houthi rebels, then there is no assumption that we can put in terms of where the crude oil prices can reach. But appropriate steps are taken by the alliance, and possibly there could be some disturbances. Let's hope that there's no large escalation in terms of global supply lines as far as crude is concerned. News-based driven spike ups will definitely be witnessed in the immediate short to medium term, and any cool off will lead to some amount of lower levels in terms of crude oil. But our focus, I guess, our government's focus is going to be procuring our energy requirement in form of crude oil from those destinations where we don't have these kind of scares.
Right, and coming back to the global, so domestic cues, we are in the midst of the earnings season, and ITC is expected to report its December quarter earnings today. The expectation is that it is going to be a subdued quarter. Revenue is expected to rise by about 5%. Now, this is the street's expectation on a year-on-year basis to 17,000 crore. And EBITDA, that's expected to see about a 3.5% bump up on a year-on-year basis, again to 6,435 crore. Margins are expected to decline from the previous year by about 70 basis points to 37.7%, and net profit is expected to rise by just 2% to 5,130 crore. Even I was looking at the expectations, a broader expectations segment wise, the cigarette volumes, now that which is a major contributor for ITC's revenue, that's expected to be flat on a year-on-year basis. It's expected to come somewhere around 0 to 2%. FMCG business is expected to do well, see a low double-digit growth of about 10 to 12%. Hotel revenue is expected to see a mid double-digit growth from of about 12 to 15%. Now, Gaurang, coming back to you, what's your expectation from ITC? And also I wanted to talk about the stock, because phenomenal returns it has given over the last 1 year, but we are seeing some bit of a correction in the last couple of months.
It's gone back into that hibernation zone which it used to be, and of course the long-awaited news or announcement in terms of hiving off their hotel business has now come through, and the consolidation has happened after that particular announcement, because it didn't go as per the market expectation. But we have to leave it to the wisdom of the management that they want to do hiving off of business, whether it is hotels or otherwise. So as a disclosure, we do have positive coverage on the buy side as far as ITC is concerned. Rural and semi-urban demand was a little bit on the lower side, not only for ITC but the rest of the FMCG pack, and that was thanks to due to the erratic monsoon that we had. Input cost also something that troubled FMCG companies, not only ITC. So it could be a quarter wherein we could see a little bit of lower numbers in terms of different business verticals that ITC has. But overall, I think over a longer period of time, they should do quite well, barring this particular quarter.
And what are you making of this weakness in the rural demand? You know, we have seen in the last 3 or 4 quarters. Do you expect some measures from the government or maybe in the interim budget to prop up that rural demand that has been lacking?
So in the budget, other than giving a push to the, because you know a large part of our population depends on the agri sector. Let's face it, Suresh. And I think they have to do appropriate steps to bring up the standard of earning and living for all those percentage of people who are associated with the agri sector. And it's going to be very crucial for India because India also has a large population to feed. So agri sector is where we expect the finance minister to touch upon a little bit. Other than that, defense, power generation, power transmission, power distribution, and railways. I think these are going to be the other sectors that we'll be possibly focusing on as far as announcements in budget are concerned. Of course, inclusive growth and employment generation.
All right, and interesting you mentioned, in the sectors that you just spelled out for us, railways, because that has been a momentum driven sector, but we are seeing some bit of a correction take place, and a lot of other analysts that I've been talking to, their view has suddenly changed. What's your views on the entire railway pack?
We remain positive, though I won't go into the names specifically, but all those companies which are associated with Indian Railways, whether they are government or private, they are likely to do much better. And let me tell you one thing, Suresh, that large part of our transportation that happens in India is by road. And I was also listening into the comments from the Honorable Minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, that he wants to change this particular equation and improve the last mile connectivity as far as Indian Railways are concerned. And slowly and steadily increase the percentage of goods and services which are transported by railways, Indian Railways. Then this will also bring down the consumption as far as crude oil is concerned. The way we use petrol, diesel, a large part of the commercial vehicles runs on diesel in our country. Of course, now the switch is happening to CNG, but it'll take a while. So I think I would only say that the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. Some months back, if you remember last year, a lot of comments were heard for the defense sector also. But from those time to the current level, I think defense stocks have rallied almost about 5-10% or maybe more stock specific. So I think there's a lot that is going to happen for Indian Railways, Indian power generation, transmission, distribution, power equipments, and defense included.
All right. Any other particular theme that you're looking at from interim budget to the elections?
Infrastructure is also something that we are focusing on, whether it is national highways, expressways, dedicated freight corridors, port logistics business. I think that should, airports as a matter of fact, Suresh. I think all this should see a decent amount of budgetary allocation.
But Mr. Shah, we are seeing good, amount of capex spends from the government, but private capex is still lagging. What do you think is the reason for that, sir?
You have a big election, so possibly I think private players are just waiting out or taking a pause. But it's not like it's the total full stop. I think wherever the need is there, we are seeing capex getting picked up, and possibly post-election and the outcome. Once we have the decisive government at the center, we should see the steam or the private capex getting fired up on all cylinders.
All right, and sir, before we let you go, what would you advise our viewers for the medium term, because we have seen quite a bit of choppiness in the market, as you also pointed out. What's your advice to the retail investors, the small investors out there who are seeing a percent, Nifty gaining a percent and then falling a percent back to back?
Don't look at short-term, medium-term volatility in the markets. Market will throw everything at you, whether you like it or you don't like it. You have to accept it. And if you decide to come and invest into equity markets directly or via mutual fund SIPs or lump sum investments, please bear in mind that markets are exposed to all kind of risk, whether it is locally or globally. And if you want high risk, you have to accept high returns. If you want low risk, you have to accept low returns. And one most sensible advice that I will give is don't just listen to anyone and do your investments. Do a little bit of homework. थोड़ा बहुत पढ़ाई करो, ज्ञान प्राप्त करो और बाद में आप निवेश करो.
All right, great insights from you as always, sir. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us here on News9. But before we wrap things up, let's look at how the markets are doing, and they are doing fairly well this morning. We are holding on to the morning gains. Nifty as we speak is up about 1% or so, and we are above the 21,550 levels, although 21,600, that is about that is providing some bit of a resistance for the index, and so going ahead probably we'll be tracking that as a crucial resistance levels on an intraday basis, or maybe for the next couple of sessions as well. Sensex is also up almost 1% or about 750 points this morning. It's trading above the 71,370 mark. The mid cap and the small cap indices, they are also building onto the morning gains. Nifty mid cap 100 is up 0.6% and it's closing in on the 47,500 mark. The small cap index is up almost 1%, and that's up about 0.91% at 15,550 level. Volatility continues to remain elevated. India VIX is up almost 10% this morning and it's above 15 levels, but remember, it's a data heavy week. We have lots of cues coming in, so perhaps volatility will remain high in the markets, and after a sharp correction, a bounce back, you expect the volatility to remain elevated as well. But let's also look at the sectors, because Nifty Bank is showing good bit of strength and that's pulling the markets higher this morning. Nifty Bank, as we speak, is up 1.5%. We have reclaimed that 45,500 level for the first time in nearly 5 sessions. HDFC Bank is leading that charge. It's up about 1.35% or so. Other sectors are also faring well this morning. Most of them are trading in the green, but it's the Nifty banking index that we'll have to track through the session, because that has been the weakest segment of our market, but today it's trading higher and up about 1% or so. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of First Take. Keep watching News9.
Somewhere I feel you're both a creator and a destroyer, like a Lord Shiva and Brahma in one. You created all these businesses, but finally most of the businesses, either it has lost out on the way, even the successful one, you've lost control, or you in some other you've lost the leadership. Do you, like you are a creator, it was your own creation, do you also hold yourself responsible some way?
No business which was successful has been destroyed.
No, has been taken.
Ownership is a very different thing. The Zeal Entertainment Enterprise Limited or Z Media or Dish TV or City Cable or any of the businesses which I have created will never die.
Not die, but the control, you always want to...
It doesn't matter, control, who's... You will never lose, you will never have a control. Ek din to khali haath jana hai. So I am not a control freak. I want to create things.
Why do you think the whole world always would have had his eyes on your businesses? And you have been throttling so many takeover bids. So you first befriended none other than Rupert Murdoch. And then you also stood up against him and said that India is not for sale. So why have people been so much enticed to come and take over your businesses?
Well, लड़की सुंदर होती है तो उसके पीछे बहुत लड़के आते हैं. If you have a successful business, people will want to have that business.
You recently, in this Z Entertainment, with regard to that, you called me up and said that Barun, Z ko bachana hai. I mean, I obviously said that quite rightly, that I'm too insignificant for that. But what was the issue? Who were you saving Z from?
The people, those who wanted to grab the Z Entertainment.
No, but that's Invesco was coming in between the merger, right?
Invesco and the Invesco's supporter behind the scene.
So what happened?
They wanted to take over the business. And we wanted to save that, and we have succeeded to save.
But you saved, but Sony is still a multinational, right? It's still not an Indian company.
Now we have merged with each other. We are partners.
But they have the majority share.
They have majority, but doesn't matter.
Usually you were very against multinationals. You wore your Indianness up your sleeves. But in this case...
Japanese are very different. They are like Indians.
So you have a problem with the Western world, and I think...
I don't say Western world, particular individuals or particular kind of corporations.
Your shareholding has dropped from 41% plus to 4% in Zeal.
We will again increase our stake to more than 25%.
Oh, really? What about the double A's? Have the Ambanis made a takeover bid of Zee Entertainment ever?
I will not like to comment.
You'll not like to comment.
This and more. Streaming on News9 plus news is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Hello and a very good morning. You're right here on News9 Live, and over the next 30 minutes, all the top stories from around the world that will impact your business, the economy and stock markets. Stay with us right here on World Business Report. You're watching World Business Report. I'm Karthik Malhotra, and the top story we are following today: 3 US servicemen were killed and dozens feared wounded after an unmanned aerial drone attack on US forces stationed in northeastern Jordan near the Syrian border. US President Joe Biden has blamed Iran-backed groups for the attack, the first deadly strike against US forces since the Israel-Hamas war erupted in October. In an address to the nation, President Joe Biden said that his country is pledging a swift and decisive response to the incident. The somber moment underscores the sacrifices made by military personnel and raises questions about the broader geopolitical implications. Listen into what Joe